Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Today I'm reading Ananda, Guardian of the Dhamma, Part 5. The author is Helmuth Hecker. Ananda's attitude toward women. Because of his natural kindliness and compassionate concern, Ananda was especially solicitous for the welfare of all four classes of disciples, not only monks and laymen, but also nuns and laywomen. Without Ananda, in fact, there might have been only three kinds of disciples, for he was the one who was instrumental in the founding of the Bhikkhuni Sangha, the order of monks, as reported in the Vinaya Pitaka. When many nobles of the Sakyan clan had left the household life for the homeless state under their illustrious kingsmen, their wives, sisters, and daughters also expressed the desire to live a life of renunciation under the Enlightened One. A number of Sakyan women, under the guidance of the Buddha's stepmother, Mahapajapati Gautami, approached the Buddha and appealed to him to establish a Bhikkhuni Sangha. 3 times Mahapajapati voiced her request, but 3 times the Buddha replied, "Do not be eager, Gautami. To obtain the going forth of women from the home into homelessness in the Dhamma and discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata." When he had finished his stay in Kapilavatthu, accompanied by the bhikkhus, the Buddha left for Vesali, a distance of several hundred miles. Mahapajapati, along with her several other Sakyan women, followed close behind. On arrival, she stood outside the gate of the monastery, her feet swollen, her limbs covered with dust, with tearful face and crying. When Ananda saw her in this condition and asked about the reason for her sorrow, she replied that the master had 3 times rejected her request for the establishment of an order of nuns. Out of compassion, Ananda decided to intercede. He went to the master and repeated her request 3 times, but each time the Buddha discouraged him. "Do not be eager, Ananda, to obtain the going forth of women from home into homelessness in the Dhamma and discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata." Then Ananda decided to use an indirect method. He asked the master, "Is a woman able to gain the fruit of stream entry, or of once returning, or of non-returning, or of arahantship, if she leads the household life and enters into homelessness in the Dhamma and discipline of the Tathagata?" The Buddha affirmed this. Thereupon Ananda rephrased his request. "If a woman is able to do this, Lord, and moreover Mahapajapati Gautami has rendered great service to the Blessed One. She is his aunt, his governess, and nurse, nourished him with her own milk after his mother died. Therefore, it would be good if the Blessed One would allow women to leave home for the homeless life in the Dhamma and discipline of the Tathagata." Ananda here brought forth 2 arguments. First, he appealed to the fact that a woman in the order could gain the highest fruit and become an arahant, a goal that can be attained only very rarely in the household life. Second, he brought up the very personal element of the meritorious services that Mahapajapati had rendered the Buddha in his childhood, which would be a good reason for him to help his stepmother now to gain final liberation. In response to these arguments, the Buddha agreed to the establishment of an order of nuns, provided certain precautions and the rules were followed. One might gain the impression from this account that it needed Ananda's clever arguments and keen tenacity to change the Buddha's mind. But an awakened one's mind cannot be changed, because he is always in touch with absolute reality. What happened here was solely the same event which all Buddhists encounter, because all of them have established an order of nuns. The whole incident was not meant to prevent the founding of the female branch of the order, but only to straighten by that hesitation for the message that this brought great dangers with it. For this reason, the Buddha stipulated 8 conditions, which were so selected that only the best women would agree to abide by them. They also served to bring out a separation of the sexes in the order in the most prudent manner possible. In spite of this, the exalted one declared that because of the founding of the order of nuns, the dispensation would last only 500 years instead of a full 1,000 years. Following the Buddhist proclamation of the rules and regulations for nuns, Ananda asked him about the qualities a monk should have to be a teacher of nuns. The Buddha did not reply that he had to be an arahant, but indicated 8 practical and concrete qualities, which someone like Ananda, who was not yet an arahant, could also possess. These 8 qualities were: first, the teacher of nuns must be virtuous. Second, he must have comprehensive knowledge of the Dhamma. Third, he must be well acquainted with the Vinaya, especially the rules for nuns. Fourth, he must be a good speaker with a pleasant and fluent delivery, faultless in pronunciation, and intelligibly conveying the meaning. Fifth, he should be able to teach Dhamma to the nuns in an elevating, stimulating, and encouraging way. Sixth, he must always be welcome to the nuns and liked by them. That is, they must be able to respect and esteem him, not only when he praises them, but especially when there is an occasion for reproach. Seventh, he must have never committed sexual misconduct with a nun. 8, he must have been a fully ordained Buddhist monk for at least 20 years. Since Ananda has been instrumental in the founding of the order of nuns, he now also wanted to help them to advance on the noble path. This brought about some difficulties for him. There were 2 occasions in which nuns stood up for him without justification against the venerable Mahakassapa. Both nuns left the order. They showed thereby that they were no longer able to sustain the necessary impersonal and purely spiritual relationship with their teacher, Ananda. Even more extreme was the case of a nun in Kosambi, whose name is not recorded. She sent a messenger to Ananda asking him to visit her as she was sick. In reality, she had fallen in love with Ananda and wanted to seduce him. Ananda mastered the situation with complete aplomb. In his sermon to her, he explained that this body had arisen because of nutrition, craving, and pride. But he said one could use these three as means for purification. Supported by nutrition, one could transcend nutrition. Supported by craving, one can transcend craving. Supported by pride, one can transcend pride. The monk consumed such nutriment as would enable him to leave the holy life. He sublimated his craving and was supported by his longing for holiness, and pride spurred him on to reach what others had already attained, namely the destruction of all defilements. In this way, he could, in due course, transcend nutrition, craving, and pride. But there was a fourth case for the rising of the body, sexual intercourse, which was entirely different matter. This had been called the destruction of the bridge to Nibbana by the Blessed One. In no way could its sublimation be used as a path to holiness. Thereupon the nun got up from her bed, prostrated before Ananda, confessed her offense, and asked for forgiveness. Ananda accepted the confession and declared that in the order it was an advantage to confess one's fault and restrain oneself thereafter. This incident is an excellent example of Ananda's great skill in giving a suitable Dhamma discourse on the spur of the moment and finding the right word at the right time. Another incident happened with regard to the wives of King Pasenadi. Despite their keen desire to learn the Dhamma, they could not go to the monastery to hear the Buddha preach. As the king's women, they were confined to the harem like birds in a cage, and that was really a disaster for them. They went to the king and asked him to request the Buddha to send a monk to the palace to teach them the Dhamma. The king, having promised, asked his wives which monk they would prefer. They discussed the issue among themselves and unanimously requested the king to ask Ananda, the guardian of the Dhamma, to come and teach them. The Blessed One complied with the request presented to him by the king, and from then on Ananda regularly went to teach the Dhamma to the woman. One day during this period, one of the crown jewels was stolen. Everything was searched, and the women felt very troubled by the situation. Because of this, they were not as attentive and eager to learn as usual. Ananda asked him the reason, and when he heard it, out of compassion, he went to the king and advised him to summon all the suspects and give them an opportunity to return the jewel unostratively. He should have a tent erected in the courtyard of the palace, put a large pot of water inside, and have everyone enter alone. So it was done, and the jewel thief, alone in the tent, let the jewel drop into the pot. Thereby, the king regained his property, the thief went unpunished, and peace reigned once again in the palace. This incident increased Ananda's popularity even more, and thereby the popularity of the Sakyan monks. The monks also praised Ananda, as he had restored peace through the gentle means. Shortly before the Buddha passed away, Ananda asked him a question concerning women. How shall we relate to women, Lord? Do not look at them. But if we see one, Lord, do not address her. But if one talks to us, keep to mindfulness and self-control. This question was posed by Ananda in view of the imminent demise of the master, just prior to the preparations for the funeral. This problem must therefore have been an important one for him. He himself did not need an admonition to practice self-control, for he had overcome sensual desire for 25 years. But again and again, he had seen how the problem of the relationship between the sexes stirred up tumultuous emotions, and he must have known too, from his discussions with the younger monks, how difficult it was to lead the perfectly pure and stainless holy life aimed at the transcendence of sensuality. He may also have had in mind the Buddha's warning that the dispensation was endangered through the foundation of the nuns' order, and he may have wanted to give his contemporaries and successors a last word of the Buddha on this topic. Here is the quote of the day. I am not the first Buddha who came upon earth, nor shall be the last. In due time, another Buddha will arise in the world, a holy one, a supremely enlightened one, endowed with wisdom in conduct, auspicious, knowing the universe, an incomparable leader of men, a master of angels and mortals. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion and wisdom and to joy. May kindness from reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha.